Okay, good evening. Thank you all for coming. And my name is Mary Ann Chinati. I'm the town planner. This is a public informational meeting for the Dow Road replacement project. We've been working on this since 2021. We applied for state local funding through the Department of Transportation, Connecticut. And it's a 50-50 match with the excess being funded through the town's highway department's road funds. This bridge has been in dire need of work for quite some time. Initially we looked at two options. One was closing the bridge and detouring, and the other was one lane open. But the one lane open was extremely cost prohibitive, so that's why we opted for the closed bridge and detour. So that is the very, very high level overview, and I will turn the meeting over now to CHA, Chuck Eaton, for a little bit more detail.
Thank you. So I guess I'll use, is the microphone on? Okay. So I'm Chuck Eaton. I'm one of the project managers at CHA, and I'm here with Chad Burkowski, who's another project manager, and Chad is also one of the bridge engineers. And like Mary Ann said, we've been looking at this bridge and trying to find the most economical way to repair it. It's been on the state bridge list for repair for at least 6 years, maybe longer. That's as long as I've known it to be on the list at least. So we put together a presentation for you to kind of walk you through the basic replacement of the bridge and what's going to be done and what's entailed in replacing it. And we'll also take a look at the detour that's proposed and a time frame for the replacement. We did have a town staff stakeholder meeting where we spoke with fire, police, and the schools, as well as Kevin, and kind of went through what the basic schedule was going to be, what the detour was going to entail. They provided some input for us as far as scheduling and coordination, and so when the time comes, these folks would be fully aware of the schedule and the different operations that are going to ensue. So I'll kind of run the program here and let Chad explain what we're doing.
Yeah, so again, thank you all for coming. The purpose of this meeting here is really to just provide an update on the status of the project, seek feedback from the local community on some maybe potential concerns, try to offset some of future concerns, make you aware of where we are in the process of the design and the project, and give you as much information as we can related to what's to be expected during construction. So, I think everybody knows what the Dow RD Bridge is. We don't need to really talk about this too much, but it's just east of 395. Very rural area, like most of Plainfield. Kind of in the middle southern portion.
And it's the second bridge crossing on Dow Road going east. Yeah. Not the first one. Where you did the original markup. Right.
Yes.
We think of the one at the bottom is a bridge. There's water going, but it's not.
It's small. I think
It's very small. I wouldn't have thought of it as a bridge.
It does have the concrete as if it were a bridge. The railings that were supposed to go on it in the middle.
That's
Okay. Next slide. Again, this slide really just showing some of the local properties and a better clarity of the rural nature of it, but we can go to the next slide too. So that's what's out there. Why are we here? The bridge is quickly approaching 70 years old. It was originally constructed in 1960, widened in 2007. The bridge is reaching the end of its service life, in particular the superstructure. The superstructure is defined as really the part of the bridge that you see when you're driving over. The parapets, the deck, the girders that you see there, the steel stringers. There's a corrugated stainless form in between the girders that hold the concrete when it's wet. The level of deterioration to those members of the bridge are at the point where it requires immediate and significant action. So the plan is for the superstructure on this project is to replace it completely. The substructure, as you note on the bottom portions, that's the foundation of the bridge. That's what supports the bridge from moving. It transfers the load from the vehicles, and it's just on sheer dead weight into the earth. You can see there on the lower right photo, there is deterioration to the concrete substructure. However, it is not in a condition that requires complete replacement. In fact, we're looking to preserve, protect, and maintain as much of the substructure as we can. So our design will show in detail how that's going to be done. Lower left photo also shows just a direct discharge of like a vertical drop off of a drainage swale that's on the north side. That's going to be included as part of this project to correct some of that. Yep. So again, as a summary, there's essentially 4 takeaways on this project within the limits of the project, which the next slide will show. But the 4 takeaways are what's to be expected and looked at for improvements. Starting with the roadway, because that's generally speaking what everyone sees. The profile of the road, meaning how the road dips, it's going to come up just a little bit. To be honest, you're not going to notice that at all. There's also going to be a minor increase of the roadway width at the bridge only. There's going to be an upgrade to the guide rails for safety features for any errant vehicles that may find their way off the road to keep them safe. And we're going to clean and repair the drainage swales. As I noted earlier, the super substructure, 2 different elements of the bridge. We're going to be trying to preserve, or we will be preserving, repairing, and reconstructing part of it. And as part of that work, we're going to be protecting and preserving it through installing a scour countermeasure, which involves a series of rock and recreating the channel in the immediate area to allow the water to flow adequately, and staying away from the substructure, because what's going on is the scour and undermining that's occurring during extreme storm events is pulling material from underneath the substructure, and over time will create instabilities and problems. So that will be addressed as part of this design. And as I noted earlier, there's going to be an entire new superstructure, bringing it back to a 50 plus to, generally speaking, 70-year service life structure. So that's what's to be expected. This graphic shows the limits of the project. So north is virtually up and down here. Dow Road runs on a, generally speaking, east to west direction. Lathrop Brook runs south to north, which is a little unorthodox, but is, does happen. West side of Dow Road of the bridge, and it's on the right side, and if you're looking at the left side, if you're looking at the screen. There's about 200 feet of roadway reconstruction. The purpose of that is to, again, correct a little bit of that sag curve, it's called, or the dip in the road, and also make up some of these grades. The right side is about 100 feet. The work on the roadway is going to end just before Ruth Drive. We're looking at that further just to make sure that that limit works and makes sense. There is some deterioration at the apron or the entrance of the intersection of Ruth Drive to Dow Road, but as it stands now, we're ending the roadway reconstruction approach work at that location. In the middle of the screen, it looks a little orangish, we'll call it. That's just really highlighting the color of the bridge and the location of the bridge. Again, we're not changing the substructure or the foundations, so the span of the bridge is going to be the same, the location of the bridge is going to be the same. We're essentially just pulling off the top portion, reconstructing a portion of the existing foundation to accept the new superstructure or the new deck system, to make it all compatible, get into good concrete, build it up a little bit to make sure everything will remain in place. And we're not putting new elements on old elements where there could be issues. We'll be, again, patching the substructure, regrading the channel, bringing in a new bridge railing. We'll show a graphic of that, and it's going to look fairly similar to what's out there now, but it's going to meet a higher, what's called the TL level, which is the test level, which is a much safer system. In the event if a plow or something running errant hits it, they're going to stay on the road and be safe. A little bit of a zoomed-in view of the bridge. I want to highlight a couple things. Drainage swale, as I noted earlier, along the north, east side. There's some very steep embankments on the southeast side. The gray coloring here is showing where we're going to be armoring the embankments to stabilize the embankments. On the south side, on the north side, this is what's qualifying as the drainage swale. Again, the bridge obviously is right in the middle there. The green areas. So the green areas are going to be what's qualified as the slope limits or the limits of disturbance, meaning the contractor is going to, with the change of the road location, elevation, they'll be getting into some of that area to regrade, to clear up, clean and grow, allow for the installation of a new guide rail, as well as adjust some of the grades for the road changes. In these graphics, I'll start with the lower left. The lower left is essentially what's out there now. And we saw the photo at the beginning of the presentation. It's essentially guide rail posts that were welded to the fascia beam and just guide rail carried through. The top middle is the proposed structure. I won't get into all the specifics, but the plan on this bridge is to provide the most cost-effective, quickest to construct, and safest bridge that we can. So the closed road detour absolutely creates that safe environment. The new superstructure is going to be what's called as pre-stressed deck units, or essentially prefabricated off-site, delivered on-site, set, and then build the what's called the shear slab on top of that in pavement, which will make it constructed in a much quicker time frame than if you were to form and pour it in place. So those are going to be fabricated ideally over the course of the winter into the spring, and when the contractor is ready for the construction, you will be delivering those to the site and setting them in one day, and we'll be ready to go. And that's as much details at the moment I can share, but I can get into more. I do want to point out the channel work I was referring to earlier as well. So this is essentially some of the channel work we're anticipating. There's going to be a little bit more on these embankments, but we're going to be armoring and preventing the water from undermining and eroding during this extreme storm events that unfortunately we've been seeing more and more lately, from getting underneath the substructure. These are the substructure footings. We do not want water getting under there. So how do we do that? We do that by installing enough stone that's sized appropriately to remain in place by their sheer weight under these extreme storm events where the flow has enough velocity to blow them downstream. We keep them in place with a series of either grouted riprap and or various sizes stones. Detour. Certainly a sensitive subject. Detours are never something that people enjoy. However, unfortunately, this project is going to move forward by replacing the bridge, which is absolutely needed based on what I've shared earlier. And a detour, again, safest, quickest, and least cost-effective, or most cost-effective, least costly, is definitely the best route to do this. Chuck, maybe you can get into some of the specifics on the detour route.
Sure. So unfortunately, there's really not a great detour around the bridge location. This is what we put together as basically the most efficient detour that we could put together. Any comments on this or any other suggestions based on local traffic knowledge or anything like that? We're always looking to make things better and easier for the folks that live here.
That's right. Okay, just a couple more slides, and we're going to open up the question and answer. So in terms of where are we, right? So we are in final design. We provided 90% level complete drawings to the town last month. We are advancing the design. We are at a stage now where we're looking for feedback and just certainly making the local residents aware of what's to be expected. We anticipate completing design and have bid-ready construction documents near the end of October. We'll immediately then go out to bid. Bid is usually about 30 days. At that time, it will be an open bid. process where we would open the bids, look for the low apparent bidder, do a bid evaluation, do some background checks of the qualifications of the contractor, and then soon after do contract execution, assuming all the bonding and all the qualifications check out. Then here we are, we're going to be in the middle of winter at that phase. We're looking for a start of construction in the spring. I'll be working with the town to see, it really depends on how the weather is this winter. If we get a mild winter and favorable conditions in the spring, there's a chance that we can start the work earlier. And the sooner we get started, the sooner we complete the project, the better it is for everyone, right? So, without a doubt, we anticipate construction starting early April. However, we're going to try to look for opportunities to accelerate that as much as possible. Construction, again, will be heavy active construction from certainly April through the summer. In our coordination and working with local stakeholders like regional schools, they've expressed concerns with school bus routes and all that. We're working to mitigate that, and we will be trying to accelerate the construction schedule as much as possible to reduce any impacts to the fall return of school in 2024. Can't make promises at the moment, but that is something that we recognize as a priority, and absolutely we'll be working to push the contractor to get it done within that time frame. Marianne noted funding. So this project is being partially funded through the state local bridge program, which is administered through the state of Connecticut's Department of Transportation. There's approximately 50% split for funds. We have a commitment to fund from the state. They are looking for us to proceed with this design as well and push forward on this project as well. So while there is a lot of red tape that got us to where we are, we have the green light to proceed. One of the requirements for that program is to get feedback from the local residents too. So this, again, it's a good common courtesy to do and out of respect for the local residents, but it's also part of the program. So we will be documenting all that, so please everyone sign in. And that's really all I have at a high level. I'd love to take any questions that anyone may have. Sure.
We put the bid specs out for the actual project.
Yes.
Will we be including time frames for when they do the work? In other words, are we looking at just Monday through Friday, looking at possible weekends?
Correct. So we will talk before the project gets to that stage or advertised, but there's, generally speaking, town ordinances where they can't work all night, every night, right? We don't want to impact people's lives and more than we have to. Generally, the working hours are going to be Monday to Friday. Sometimes it's as early as 7. They can start. Sometimes it's pushed out a little bit. And then generally speaking, it ends around 5-ish. If there's an absolute desire and need to accelerate it further, we can extend those. We can write some language in the specifications to allow the contractor to exceed those upon request. And that's generally the typical day-to-day working operations. In terms of other language in the contract, there's going to be no work on weekends. Actually, in fact, there's going to likely be a clause that says you can't work the day before a holiday because of the potential disruption there. And then we have what's called contract days or calendar days, meaning as soon as the contractor gets awarded the project and we give him a notice to proceed, the clock starts. And until he finishes the project, the clock continues to run, and if he exceeds those days that are allowable for him to complete the work, then there will be liquidated damages, enforced penalties, financial penalties, to essentially force the contractor to get the work done as quickly as he can. Because we don't want it to be something that he does, takes his time. There's certainly a priority associated with this project.
I'm just curious because obviously weather has a big impact. Early start time, if it's light enough out, those type of issues could occur. But I was concerned if residents would be able to understand exactly what we'll put out notifications, obviously.
Yes.
And we talked about this the other day when we were at the pre-meeting, And we're talking about working with the Board of Education because they have to have their schedules ready to go in case it pushes too far into August for the completion date, so they can get another bus run. So it'd be 2 bus runs, one for the upper, one for the lower. We talked about that with EM services. We talked about with the fire department and police, making sure that we know the best routes in and out. Have we timed out the actual route itself for getting around?
We have not. I'm not exactly sure how we could do that, besides maybe just driving it.
Yeah.
And doing that and clocking it. That's something we can do.
I think that would really help.
Yeah, sure.
People will be asking how much is going to be putting onto my going to work or coming back or just daily activities. So you probably want to know roughly how what's their best route in and out. I think that might help. Because that helps them to plan extra minutes on their.
Can I make a suggestion about that? I think a lot of people don't work around here, so they're gonna wanna get to 395. So obviously, what they have to do is they have to go down, take a left, and take the next left, and then go down 395, because that's the quickest way to go. And that's what, well, I think anybody that lives around that area should know that.
Yep. Yeah, so I've been doing this for 15, 18 years. And I've done a lot of bridges in a lot of towns throughout the state of Connecticut. And generally how this happens is the first couple weeks, people start finding their way. They start figuring out, oh, that didn't work out, that wasn't the quickest, or that was kind of the best way. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there. Same thing with the contractor. They're going to figure out how to best do the work that's being asked of them, and they're going to start better understanding how Lathrop Brook behaves under a mild storm, a moderate storm, or under low flow conditions. That's a little bit of the evolution of the project itself during the construction phase. But to get into like a little of the notifications and stuff like that, as the detour is going to begin, the signs will be installed 2 weeks before the contractor does any work. They'll be bagged. A week before the work starts, the bags will be removed, and you can see the big orange signs that says, road closed ahead, detour this way. They'll have arrows. It'll be very apparent of the signage. Generally speaking, again, based on my experience, the signage is best for people that are, I would say commuting to, like, let's say a resident's property for a birthday party, where that's not familiar with the area. The local residents, like, you guys, you're going to figure it out. You're going to know what to do. You're not going to really need the signs. So the first couple weeks, there'll be a little bit of a learning curve as to what's going on, how is this working. We're going to be there to help support any concerns, issues that may arise. If the contractor is not performing the work, let's say he's starting too early or he's working too late, you can certainly let us know, and we'll have those conversations and correct them.
One other question I have for you concerning signs, I should have asked the other day, but at the beginning of each end of the road, we're going to put up signs there as well saying that there's a road blocked.
Yeah, so when a contractor takes the road for the purpose of the project, I'm sure you've all seen them, maybe not. They're 32 inches high. It's called a concrete barrier curb. They come in 2 lengths, 20 and 40 foot lengths. The contractor is likely going to lay 2 of them on the road perpendicular to the way you would travel. And then he's going to put what's called these type 2 barricades, which are a piece of plastic sign about this high. It's got a bunch of reflective signage and blinking lights, and it's a road closed in front of it. Usually there are like sandbags and stuff like that to hold it in place. That's going to make it very apparent if you're entering the area that the road's not open. That's at the immediate location. There's going to be signage at every intersection working its way back to the major routes to understand, yes, local traffic only, Dow Road closed at this location, stuff like that.
Initially, when I heard that they were going to be, that the town was going to be redoing the bridge or something, and it was very encouraging. I've been wondering, as far as when it got replaced, I thought for sure that you guys were going to take into consideration the width of the road, and now I've heard that it's like basically a foot, maybe a foot and a half of change from what it is now. The biggest dilemma for myself as just a normal vehicle is to get through there. And if another car is coming, people are not respectful, we already know that. But I thought for sure that the road is going to be widened up to least what you would construe as the pinch point on Dow Road itself. What is the most narrow point on Dow Road that, let's just say 30 feet, it's 30 feet wide at the most narrow point. So to me, the bridge should have been at least to that. You know what I mean? I don't know if it is. I mean, it very well may be that if we find VUC type areas and stuff like that on Dow Road, that it would be something that you are right in line with that. Because I just didn't understand a long time ago, this has not a lot to do with the bridge itself, but when they repaved Dow Road, they didn't widen the road. I know that people have stone walls there. I know people, you know, I'm a resident, I don't like when I have to move my mailbox back because they're working on it or whatever. I understand that, but they, the town did not back then, and this was like 20, 30 years ago when they did this, that they didn't widen it because evidently it appeared that they didn't want to remove people's mailboxes and say, listen, this is town property, you know, unfortunately we've got to widen this road. And then the new project up there where this couple, they have their house up the top of the road, on top of the hill and stuff like that, you've got an increase of so many houses and stuff like that. As a first responder, I'm absolutely amazed that we haven't had accident after accident at that little section with the bridge is. So I thought for sure that way. This is fantastic. The town's going to replace that bridge. It's going to be a community hub for people, et cetera, et cetera. We go up Dow Road, well, frequently from Main Street. So we go up there very frequently. So it's going to be, and it was a minor issue, but I thought for sure this is going to be fantastic. It's going to be a normal road. You've got road on one side, that's why one that on the south side or the west side is a little narrower, but with all the new project up there and stuff like that, everything's got wide roads. And I thought that being a major thoroughfare road, because many people do go from Route 12 up Dow Road over to Spalding to get to 14A and go that way, myself. So with the road on Beechwood, up on Beechwood, you've got the bridge that crosses the brook over there. That's one of the bridges. That road, you can have two tractor trailers go by one another, and they're not even going to become close to mirrors. Now you have a bridge on what is construed as a high thoroughfare road that's not going to be improved to the great degree. I was concerned about, as a former truck driver, so I was concerned about the weights of vehicles and stuff like that with the bridge. But that's obviously being taken care of. That's being addressed as far as the superstructure and stuff like that. But still, to me, I think that it should have been, I realize that it is very well done and stuff like that. Everything's being addressed, with the exception of why couldn't the bridge have been widened up 2 feet? You know what I mean? So that way, particularly when two cars come down, they have a little peanut car, I have a big pickup truck, so we would be able to pass without any issue. Right now, we still have to slow down and stop, because if you see somebody coming, we gotta let it come. So, because I don't want to cause an accident, and I want to be part of it. Sure. So I wondered why that wasn't considered, if it was a financial issue. If the state is also being coming forward with 50% financing as well as addressed, that's fantastic. You know, why couldn't we have decided on going a little bit more with a little bit bigger on the budget to actually get it so that it's up to par with the streets, the major streets? Because it is a thoroughfare. It's not just a little country road anymore where one of the Glucks had their farm up there and just drove their tractor up there with a headache. So I mean, it's a pretty heavily traveled road. I was hoping that it was going to be widened. A little disappointed that it's not.
Well, that's good feedback. So the cost associated with widening it a little that we're doing now increases the cost significantly. If we were to go, let's say, a 24-foot travel way, which would mean the bridge would be probably more like 28 feet, maybe 27 and a half. The entire section of Dow Road would significantly be impacted to the point where the cost would be more than probably double. Probably 2.5 times. The embankments now are very steep. We're not minimizing the project, but we're doing what we can with the available funds that we have, both shared with the state and the town. And widening it, I think it's about 2 feet, as you noted. But going significantly more involves removing the entire substructure, starting from scratch all over again. And it would be a significant undertaking and much longer, much more expensive. And that was not something that was something that was going to be pursued. Interestingly enough, I usually hear the opposite. I usually hear, can we make it narrower? Now, this bridge is somewhat narrow now.
Step into this.
Yeah.
Now, think about what Mr. Cohen said, now, I never thought about it, but whenever we go up down and we go home, if there's a truck coming down, say, a garbage truck, a plow truck, we have to stop where to go to, because I can't drive over the bridge. And so I, for all these years, have been doing that. So that's basically what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll also say, I've been to the site, numerous times, and people drive very fast already.
Yes, they
Yes, they do.
I would be concerned, not to say this is an excuse not to widen the road, but if the road was wider, I would only think that would increase.
faster.
Yes, so there is a little bit of that going on too, right? So, under this program, we have the opportunity and benefit to, let's say, do what we want. Now, it is our recommendation and our understanding is the town is looking forward to moving forward with preserving Dow Road's geometry as much as possible and maintain costs as low as possible to get the most benefit from the cost of everything. Now, under other programs, which this bridge does not qualify for, you have to follow FHWA requirements, and that would blow this whole road up significantly. It would be 30 feet plus wide, and it would look like a highway. Not something that I would recommend here, but that's just an example of
Yeah, it'd probably be something like with 395 overpass goes on Dow Road, where they had, when they flared it out wide enough where it is, and this is like Route 12. It's wide enough for somebody.
Generally speaking, a rural, nice scenic community here is not looking to do stuff like that. It sounds like, there's concerns with large vehicles both passing each other. I think inherently that almost forces you to slow down and consider safety, which maybe indirectly is a good thing. But as a structural engineer, I'm here to make sure the bridge is designed in accordance with the program, provides us a safe bridge. The geometry, is what it is. And that was not something that we, it's not a road job where we're going to correct all the, let's say, deficiencies along Dow Road from A to B. It's trying to focus on the priorities of the structure, to keep it in service, and really to bring it back into a new structure as much as we can.
Plus, the problem was a bit of time extender as well, to have to redo underneath it.
If we were to do an entire new structure to make it much wider, it would be more than one construction season. So that would mean a closed road throughout the entire winter. And,
And a lot of other factors as well. Starting from scratch to say that you want to make it wider, you then would have to go back to the state for another application round. Our costs would probably go quite a bit higher. We allocated $350,000 for a town meeting. We have monies coming from road repairs, but that wouldn't be a drop. It would be a drop in the bucket compared to what we actually would have to pay. I think also there was another thing about the length of the bridge. Is it just short enough? It's what, about a foot?
Yeah, so one of the programs that Chad was talking about is the state-federal program, and to be eligible for that, it's a 20-foot span, and I think the span on the Dow Road Bridge is like 19 and a half feet. 18 and a half, yeah. So it's almost.
Yeah, so it's not quite there. So it would require a full bridge replacement to increase the size of it to go after that funding program or source. And you can almost go back, if you want to go quickly, Chuck, back to the graphics we were showing the roadway.
This one?
Nope, it's the roadway. Yeah, right, maybe one more back that shows the roads in there. So all that green is a result of impacting the guide rail and the limited elevation change with the profile, with the new superstructure. If we were to widen that bridge even wider, that level amount of green would probably extend at least to the easements, if not further. We're talking huge clearings, and it would look like a huge open area. Not to say it's not doable, but we're talking at a much larger scale project. And I appreciate your feedback, but I think that's beyond the scope of this project.
I understand what you're saying about the rural
one other bridge that's very, very similar to that, you go Moose Pond Road.
Yep.
Same thing where it narrows right down to the narrow section of the, by the brook right there. It's a pinch point, and everybody usually has to either stop and wait for someone to come through, or you're at risk when you come across each other.
And what you'll notice here is that the completion of the project, Dow Road is what it is. It's for, you know, the miles on either side of the bridge. When you get to the bridge, it's going to flare out that 1.5 foot or so on either side. It'll taper out, and then it'll roll over the bridge, and it'll taper back in, and essentially recreate what's there now. So we're eliminating the bridge as the pinch point, but we're not eliminating the overall Dow Road geometry and increasing it to it's a larger curve. Questions?
That's it.
Hopefully I answered it
That was the
okay.
questions.
There's still follow-up too with questions. If you can't, if you think about something later on, you can always contact the town, and then we can relay the questions and information available to these gentlemen and follow up with answers.
It sounds like just looking over the paperwork here and when we were talking about stuff like that, it's a matter of strengthening the bridge because people complain about if people they complain about the shutdown and stuff like that. Yeah, if a truck was coming down that road, a dump truck or something like that, coming down that road and that bridge collapsed, it'd be a lot longer than just a season to fix that bridge, you know?
Yeah.
Plus the person that may get killed in the car in the truck crash.
Yeah, hopefully that never happens. You know, the town's done a good job to advance the project today, think about this, plan for it, budget for it. We got funding in place, so it's not coming solely out of the capital budget for the town. So, you know, they're doing their job, we're doing ours. We appreciate, you know, both their attendances. And we're gonna try to make this as painless as possible, but yeah, certainly the bridge is nearing the end of the service life, so we need to do something. If nothing is to be done, what will likely happen is some nasty storm or some evidence of significant shifting, deterioration or otherwise.
Erosion or whatever.
Yeah, and then the bridge got closed. And now the bridge is closed until something happens, right? And then at that point, who knows?
Right, well, and the other issue too is that because this bridge is on the state bridge list, basically when the state went through that period of time when we had some bridge failures, a lot of bridge issues, the DOT started going out and doing a lot more inspections on bridges, and they were inspecting a lot of the smaller town bridges. And basically, I'm trying to talk more about this than I do, but essentially the state inspects these bridges every year, every 2 years, depending on their condition, and essentially, once you make the list and the bridge continues to deteriorate, the state does have the option of actually closing the bridge or requiring a load limit on the bridge, which you might not be able to drive a fire tanker truck over it or something. So we're trying to get ahead of that. You know, so we're not scrambling to find funding and get designs put together after the fact.
So one more thing I wanted to mention was, we started this process in 2021, and obviously the costs have escalated.
Yeah, COVID did not help anything.
Not at all.
Anyway.
So we're hoping for a good bid process to come in so we can continue on with the project. But again, we'll see that when it comes through. And if there's a higher number, we'll figure out a way to be able to finance properly, but we'd like to get it done.
Much needed repairs.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Did everyone sign in? Thank you. Thank you.